Do you ever get the impression that the actors you're watching up on stage don't quite speak the same language you do? Or that your hearing is going out on you? Or maybe that there was a really clever play on words that you just didn't get? Well, that's our modern theater, where actors have stopped focusing on those very special tasks which form the challenge that every actor needs to take on at some point or another. Learning to do so successfully will go a long way to making you the more castable, usable actor. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Mooney from the Timothy Mooney Repertory Theater, and I'm racing my way through my book, Acting at the Speed of Life, Conquering Theatrical Style. We've now posted the first 7 chapters of this book on this YouTube site. You can go back and watch them all, and if you'd like to get the jump on everybody else, you can see the early release of these videos at breakneckshakespeare.com, or even earlier by becoming a Patreon subscriber. It's our way of saying thanks for your support. And you can also track down a wide variety of videos on topics of Shakespeare, acting, and more by exploring this YouTube site and hitting subscribe to catch them all. Today's challenge may be the most important one you endeavor to take on: articulation, volume, and projection. The fact is that you probably gave up on speaking the final consonants of words long ago. When an elbow is bending, when knees fold, when fingers dance across a keyboard, we are articulating those joints. We are taking the appendages from straight, unbroken extensions of our body and bending them. We give them shape, we give them visual interest. In the same way, we take an unbroken stream of air that is escaping from our lungs and we give it shape. We form words out of it. We articulate it through the motion of our lips, teeth, and tongue, just as a joint may bend further or lesser, just as the muscles extending that joint can stretch longer or shorter, so do we have the ability to give greater or lesser articulation to our words as we give them aural interest. That's aural with an AU. Just as muscles may atrophy and the joints may develop arthritis, which sounds suspiciously like articulation, so do the muscles of the face, and the sounds therein suffer from lack of use. Perhaps today's greatest enemy to good articulation is the microphone, and its evil spawn, the body mic. For thousands of years, actors performed in large arenas and were heard from the first row on back to the last. I don't recall ever reading a report of a play from the 17th century suggesting that this or that actor was too quiet or unintelligible. There must have been a few hard-to-understand actors, but either reports of their work have gone the same path as the manuscripts of mediocre playwrights, or there was a basic threshold level of vocal competency to which actors were scrupulously held. Without a voice that would carry to the back row, and without an articulatory mechanism which would clarify each word, these same performers would never succeed in their profession. They knew already that the play was all about the words, and they put relentless energy into speaking them well. A mumbler or a mutterer would get weeded out before even approaching the level of apprentice. Today, mumblers and mutterers are the rule more than the exception. That's the bad news. The good news is that if you take this seriously and really work at it, you can win the casting battles in both contemporary and classical work. Your clarity of speech can give you a leg up over 90% of your competition. Mumblers will continue to overrun our performances until we stem the tide of the practice of attaching microphones to our performers for everything. It starts in the grade schools. Well-meaning teachers, under pressure from moms and dads who want to showcase little Jimmy's talents, attach a crutch to Jimmy's lapel, which will blast Jimmy's voice out of the speakers, suspended 20 feet above the stage floor to the left and the right of the stage. If Jimmy ever did anything so pointless as to project his voice, he would blast the parents out of their seats. And so he learns to swallow his words. But here's the rub. Mom and Dad only think they are hearing little Jimmy better because, well, they know these lines already. They've seen the script. They've heard Jimmy working on these lines for the last 5 weeks. If you trained a camera on them, sitting out in the auditorium. Through the course of Jimmy's performance, you'd see them forming the words with their lips, probably with greater clarity than Jimmy does. Footnote: high school theater directors from privileged schools have whispered their secret agreement with this to me. The more exclusive the campus, the more the technological tools at the director's disposal are crippling the actors. Not to mention the fact that these kids are way too cool to be bothered putting out anything that looks like effort or emotional commitment. In the course of the performance, Jimmy learns nothing about articulation or projection, and so he carries all of his lazy habits with him through high school and on to college, where the professors are also thinking more and more about maybe working microphones into the show, because after all, Jimmy's dad is an alum. Microphones don't make your words any clearer. Microphones make bad speech louder. One single concession to this: amid the ever louder electrified orchestras that accompany musicals, the actor needs weapons in his arsenal to balance the otherwise overwhelming music. Nobody seems willing to acknowledge this, but at least 50% of the time, these microphones fail, are ridiculously out of balance with the orchestra or with each other, or contribute to more distracting noise, scrapes and scratches and pops than they are worth. In my theater universe, microphones are forbidden for straight plays. As an audience member, I come to the theater not to admire the technical wizardry of the producer, but to participate in the time-honored ritual of engaging in a public forum, observing humanity in action, contemplating the choices that an individual caught up in human conflict might make, understanding better what it means to be a human being. I look at the mouth of the actor, speaking what the playwright has given him to say, and from a speaker some 30 feet from his mouth comes the actor's voice. That very same actor may well walk off stage away from the action. He may even walk down what is supposed to be a long off-stage staircase, placing him some supposed 50 feet or more from the stage. And when he tosses a line back in from his off-stage position, that line will be heard just as loudly as when he stood downstage center, and every bit as clearly as those left behind standing immediately before us. We see the human qualities of the performer/character. We contemplate the choices and the actions that character performs, and we wonder what we might do in the same situation. If the character is a protagonist, we will likely begin to identify with him or her. The process of identification gives a play its emotional power. If we cry, it is because the action has touched something in ourselves which has set off our emotional current. We see ourselves rising to greatness or falling to ignominy. Removing the voice from the throat of the protagonist and placing it 30 feet from its source inhibits identification. It also reminds us that we are not in reality, but in a world of techno-reality. We are emulating the television or the cinema, where it doesn't even matter if the actors are speaking clearly. If there are problems, the editors can fix it in post-production. Every concession towards techno-reality suggests to that growing band of video, movie, TV, game watchers that this is not real life here before them, and thereby behavior that is appropriate in front of the television, which includes but is not limited to talking, texting, eating, sleeping, taking phone calls, unwrapping candies, necking, taking notes, sleeping, is perfectly appropriate here. Because, after all, it is not real. The characters are not people, and no one who is up there can see or hear me out here, or might possibly care what I do. Or as one brilliant performer, Charlie Ross, author-performer of the one-man Star Wars trilogy, confided, the microphone only gives them permission not to listen. Good stage speech can be heard in a whisper. The issue is almost never about volume. The issue is speaking the entire word. Who here has ever tried learning a foreign language? All hands go up. Great, everybody. You listen to those endless tapes of native speakers. They repeat at length with crisp articulation the words that we need to learn. Our teachers drill proper pronunciation into us, and after a year or two, we start to feel pretty competent about our ability to actually function in a foreign country, right? And then we have our first encounter with an actual native from that country. How did that go for you? Faces darken. Right. Those people do not sound a bit like the tapes. The same thing happens to them when they come try to learn our language. They come here expecting all of us to speak like we do in the tapes that they have been studying, and they too realize that they've been duped. They can't understand a word that we're speaking, and we think that's about them. They're obviously of diminished mental capacity if they can't make out what is to us perfectly clear. By virtue of the fact that we live where we live and speak the way that we speak, we have no idea of the poor quality of our own speech. We can make ourselves understood to those people around us who speak back to us the way that we speak. As such, we come to know the language in a particular way, and we don't notice that we've made such an enormous adjustment. We get so much information from context, a look, a shrug, a nod, an eyebrow, an inflected intonation, a pursing of the lips, a previous conversation, that we have long stopped the practice of speaking entire words, and we don't even know it. We gave up speaking the final consonants of the words long ago, just as those speakers in foreign lands let go of their final consonants long before we came along. This disease is not confined to consonants. Depending on our background, we almost certainly have replaced the word to with ta. The word for is fur, while your is now your, get has become git, can has become kin, and our and our are now pronounced as if they were the same word. These transpositions each take us from the difficult to the easy vowel, which would otherwise make our mouths stretch further than what might be comfortable. Our multi-syllabic words bubble with landmines. Syllables race by at such a clip that we don't recognize how badly they're mangled. Did you becomes didya. Interpretation becomes interpretation. Intended becomes intended. And important, with a schwa or an in the final syllable, shifts to important. But even among people that we've known all of our lives, what context of familiarity is going to help the audience know and understand the very unfamiliar phrasings of Shakespeare? Our traditional speech is not going to make us intelligible. We need to take that speech and overwork it until every letter and syllable is being sounded. Set up a recording device in the back row of the auditorium. Then go back up on the stage and play out a Shakespeare scene you've been working on. Speak as well as you can. Then go back to the back row and play it back. Surprised? Try this again during the average rehearsal of an average play, when the performers are not aware of the experiment. The results will probably shock you. Do this with an audio recorder. We are so image conscious that once a video is displayed, we cannot hear ourselves anymore. We are too busy looking at the stupid look on our face, the silly way that we stand, the position of our hands. Just what are we doing with our hands? But with an audio recorder, we can isolate the voice, and more often than not, we hear nothing but white noise. Overhead fans blow. The air conditioner hums. In the background, we may actually hear voice. We notice musicality, a rise and a fall of intonation. We may catch a clear word or two, or be able to identify the speaker by intonation or inflection. But I would be willing to bet we do not understand one full sentence from the beginning to the end. Not one full sentence. We can blame the recording equipment, or, as we've discussed, the audience gets messages from the face, the eyes, the physical silhouette, the tone of the voice, or the inflection. An audio recorder is not a record of the entire information stream, but these only slightly mitigate the problem. It's not an excuse for neglect. This is a disease that's probably keeping you from getting cast, at least in plays where words make a difference, which is just about all of them. We begin rehearsals in a state of not knowing, and we gather in a circle with our fellow actors to read this work aloud. As we read, we also see. As the words pass through our ears, so do they also pass before our eyes. And while we may or may not hear the specific words emerging from our fellow performers' mouths, we still understand the ongoing thread of the plot, the cleverness or the passion of the dialogue, and the developing idiom or motif of the playwright, and we laugh, cry, respond in a manner in line with the playwright's intent. We look forward to performing this play and we go away to memorize. We return for subsequent rehearsals, at first holding scripts in hand and later tossing them aside, but always in the company of those who were in attendance at that first rehearsal. We develop socio-emotive articulatory shorthand in collusion with our comrades who already get the jokes and the intent and along with us seek to improve upon them. Opening night is often the first time that someone from outside this process is present to hear or not hear us reciting these words. And that audience perfectly parallels that non-native language student. Not present for the first read-through, the audience never saw the script or witnessed the many discoveries and in-jokes we developed along the way. Likewise, the language student was never there, absorbing the language from birth, observing the many shortcuts, gestures, and tonal differences which mean so much to the native speakers. We may choose to feel superior to these people. We get it, and they don't. But their very ignorance should be precious to us. They have the power to reveal where we are not communicating. If only we might have the power to listen past our insecurities to hear them. A woman with a thick European accent came up to me after a performance, almost in tears. For the first time since coming to America, she was able to understand every word in the play she had just seen. In 20 years of attending plays in the United States, this was the first time she had understood everything. I have a deaf friend who has told me the same thing, at least regarding her ability to read lips. The joy and the gratitude these people express is something every actor should experience. And that's Chapter 8, Articulation, Volume, and Projection. Have you got any microphone horror stories to relate? Or have you maybe had some good experience with being able to hear an actor or a cast of actors coming across crystal clear? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I enjoy reading them all. I'll be back again soon with Chapter 9, Getting Heard. If you've been following along, you are now perfectly situated to totally get this next one, which is the centerpiece of the workshops I've been giving for some 20 years now, with some special insight into Hamlet's first big soliloquy, "Oh, that this too solid flesh." You won't want to miss it. Hit like and subscribe. In the meantime, swing by my special site, breakneckshakespeare.com, which has loads of these videos, which you can preview in advance of our YouTube videos, plus full performances of several of my breakneck one-man plays, including Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, Comedy of Errors, and even a free performance of Shakespeare's History's 10 epic plays at a breakneck pace. Thanks once again to the wonderful support of the Crystal DeHaan Family Foundation and our awesome Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to join us at patreon.com/TimMooneyRep, you not only get an even earlier preview of these videos, but you can also find books, stickers, t-shirts, and more. Thanks for joining me. See you on the stage.